This is showing the runout on the front yoke of the propeller shaft on a C5 Corvette. This propeller shaft has solid mounts on it, and so it cannot articulate to what the flex plate wants to be, and the flex plate must follow this runout. I have the white underneath for a better illustration of how bad the runout is. I had a dial indicator on it, but it is extreme, so like you can just see what this is doing to the flex plate. Okay, here are our solid couplers. They're just solid aluminum. This is for an automatic transmission for a C5, so these are 10 millimeter couplers and a 10 millimeter shaft. But this is a big problem for C5 Corvette. A lot of LS engines that go racing, they might wipe out the thrust bearings. This might be because of the torque converter ballooning under the heavy pressures of launching the car or doing burnouts and without the right converter. But on a C5 Corvette, C5, C6, or C7 Corvette, the torque converter is all the way back here, and this housing is hard mounted in the torque tube, and there's two bearings on the shaft. So before this could go anywhere from the torque converter, it would have to destroy this housing and bust this housing all out. So then how do we see wiped out thrust bearings on the C5, C6, and C7 Corvettes without this being bashed out and destroyed? And I would argue and like to postulate that this out around condition on the front of the front yoke of the torque tube is what's creating this issue. As it's walking around like this, and it's just a clamp holding it, it's trying to unscrew itself. Just this out around motion is creating the forward load on the crank. And so when we see this, especially with solid mounts that cannot straighten itself out as it spins around, how could this not be destructive to the crankshaft? But also, these 10 millimeter couplers on the automatic transmission torque tube are too short in the stack, and they don't let this front bearing seat all the way in the tube like it should. These are nice, pretty billet aluminum couplers, but they're too short in the stack. That's just a thing. Anyway, so we're gonna get on to trying to rebuild this the right way and put it back together, but this is an issue. If you have an out around, a runout condition, and most of them do, you should just always have couplers that have some way of articulating, if not flexing from rubber. The 6-shooter couplers that are really hard to come by, at least they have spacers that can individually articulate and let the shaft have some bit of correction to it as it goes down the 3 stages so that it can correct for slight runout conditions. We gotta get back to it. Second shift performance.